Thank you so much, Anu. Thank you so much. Allow me to begin by sharing a precious small story that I received as a gift. The abbot of a monastery was very upset because the monastery was, on the path of decline. Not many people were visiting the monastery. And there was a lot of sadness amongst the monks and the abbot. And one day, the abbot went to have tea with a rabbi who lived close by. And they sat together exchanging life stories and notes and laughters and a cup of tea, over a cup of tea. And towards the end, the abbot really wanted to ask, "What can I do? What can I do?" was a question playing on his mind. And the rabbi, as if reading his mind, just when the abbot was about to go back to the monastery, he held his hand and he said, "I have a message for all of you. The Messiah is amidst you." And with those words, the abbot walked back to the monastery and he reached the monks who were really eager to know what happened in the afternoon. And then the rabbi told the monks, the abbot told the monks that the rabbi had a message for them. The Messiah was amidst us. And that message sort of started playing on each of their minds and hearts. And slowly, each of them said, "Oh, maybe it's them. Maybe the Messiah is them. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's you." And those were the messages that were playing in their hearts and minds. And slowly but surely, they started seeing the Messiah in each one of them. And a sort of light started radiating around them. And the light started spreading. And a lot of people started walking towards the monastery, towards the light. And the monastery, they say, really grew from there. So this was a story that really was speaking to me today, and I felt like bringing it to you. It's called The Rabbi's Gift. I invite you now to find a comfortable position and take a few gentle breaths and just feel grounded and held in wherever you are. You may close your eyes. On this wonderful planet, in this beautiful world that we live in, with all of us molded with the same clay, yet each of us made in a unique, special way, praying to the divine within, the Messiah residing amongst us, to empower us to continue to recognize the beauty of this connection and the uniqueness that's there in each of us. We nourish our plant of intention to do our best towards each other, taking a few more gentle, comfortable breaths. We invoke the divine to deepen our understanding, respect, and love towards each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ramya. A word about the speaker. Ashika Shetty has a life experience of working at the intersection of children, education, social work, and sexuality for more than 15 years. Her experiences include working with organizations like the Concerned for Working Children, which is a rights based organization working in the space of child labor and child participation in governance at the grassroots level, and the Enfold Trust, an organization that works in the area of child sexual abuse. This gave her the opportunity to participate in many policy and advocacy level interventions with various state and national child rights, government and non governmental stakeholders in the area of child rights, reproductive health, and sexual safety and sexuality. She is also a former bench member of the five-member quasi-judicial body known as the Child Welfare Committee under the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 from 2017 to March 2021. Currently, she is a consultant coordinator for the inclusive school at not-for-profit organization called Association for Promoting Social Action (APSA). Bangalore, that provides alternative and inclusive academic support to children who are unable to access mainstream education. She individually provides expert opinion to organizations working with vulnerable children based on her experience of being a CWC member. She also holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, a postgraduate diploma degree in business administration, and is currently pursuing a master's degree in gender, culture, and development studies from Savitribai University in Pune. Thank you so much, ma'am. Much gratitude for being here. And on behalf of all the councils, associations, and NGOs, I welcome you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for that, Anu, and good evening to everybody. Happy Pride Month to all of us here. I am fortunate and honored to see so many individuals wanting to learn and wanting to be allies of queer lives and the queer community. And we'll take a little time to kind of unpack what it is to be an ally. I know sometimes it gets a little disturbing for a lot of us in this space that we get to be heard only on Pride Month. So while I have this conversation with you today, my request to everybody out here is to take this conversation beyond the month of June and continue to have it throughout the year, because queer lives are important not only in June, but every days of our lives. Yeah, with that, I would like to start my presentation. Understanding queer allyship. Now, before we move on to this, I know I'm talking to a lot of us individuals who already know what it means to be queer, or have some basic knowledge or understand that queer is something that is not mainstream. At least that basic understanding most of us have. So today what I'm going to do is not tell you or not explain to you what queer means and what queer allyship means, but to give you a rundown through an experience where you will have to go through some exercises and see a few videos. Because I believe that while I identify as cis heterosexual, I don't come under the bracket of being queer, and my voice will not be authentic and true because I'm not queer enough to be talking about queer allyship, right? So here we go. If it would be nice if people could unmute your mics and talk about and share what you feel, and therefore so a few questions that will come before you. I would like you to please respond. First would be gender and sex, and because when we start talking about queership and LGBTQI and all those terms that some of us are very comfortable or not comfortable with, we'd like to understand what it's where it all starts, and it all starts here. So some of us could unmute or put in the chat if we understand what gender is and what sex is. We could take this conversation from there. So I see that Shibi has responded saying that it's different. Thank you for that, Shibi. Any more other responses? And Shibi, if you want to respond to that and how do you think it's different, that would be nice. Thank you.
Hi. Sex is what we are born with, biological. So at birth, you get to see what sex, male, female, and maybe 1% of intersex or something like that. From that, biology comes, I would say that would be the cause for it. And then you have gender, which is more of a social construct or set of behaviors that make people male or female, masculine, feminine. That's it.
Thank you so much, Jesse. I think Aishwarya has also responded similarly. And like I said, I think if we want to be allies, I'm sure we are doing some bit of groundwork ourselves. And yes, when we talk about sex, we're actually talking about the anatomical structure of our body, what is typically male and what's typically female, attributes to what kind of genitalia, internal, external, I do have, and that is my anatomical sex. Yes, gender is a social construct. When I say social construct, that means I decide based on my performance of my being what constitutes being feminine or masculine. Uh, Me wearing a particular outfit, me speaking in a particular manner, my voice sounding in a particular manner, the way I walk, the way I talk, my attributes with regard to my behaviors, what behaviors constitute as feminine, what constitute masculine. So all these categories that have about our social constructs that have been categorized as male and female constitute that of being my gender. Great. Thank you so much for all of them who have responded. And this brings us to this very interesting and simple diagram that I always refer to and request all of you to do so. This is from a very interesting book called A Guide to Gender by Sam Killiman. Sam Killiman helps us deconstruct what gender is and how we understand ourselves, mind, body, and heart. Just to give a quick rundown, if all of us draw this little ginger or genderbread person, and then we kind of map this. So we also try and understand who we are and what we are. And this also helps us understand if we are truly heterosexual or are we queer. Now, the first, if you see, is the brain. So that brain tells us or recognizes our identity. That means what gender I am. Now, this gender, as everybody pointed out, is a social construct. And therefore, if I feel that my attributes and I am mostly associating myself with most of the attributes that is feminine, then sometimes I identify as female. Now, if I have a lot of my attributes and I recognize that these attributes are socially recognized as male, I identify as male. There are often times when I recognize that I have a few male attributes, few female, and I don't want to categorize myself as male or female. I call myself gender fluid, gender not conforming. And this has nothing to do with what my anatomical sex is, right? Very interesting. Some of us have shared that sex is your anatomical structure, that is your genitalia. Some of us have all the typical attributes of a female body. Some of us have all typical attributes of a male body. And therefore, we identify as having male sex or a female sex. Can somebody tell us if do we have only two sexes or do we have more than two sexes? Aishwarya says more than two. Aishwarya says a third sex called intersex, more than two. Yeah.
More than two.
Thank you for that. Yes. Yes, Ashwin, you want to say something?
No, and same thing, more than two.
Okay. Okay. So some of us think that there is more than two. That means we attribute it to three. But I'd like to say that not only gender is a spectrum, so is sex as well. Because some of us have very different genitalia that cannot be typically identified as male and female. And that is also very unique. So I could have maybe an external genitalia that is male, typically male, and internal looking like female. I could have typically male, internal, and external, and have very different chromosomes. So my me being male and female and the entire spectrum in between also constitutes my sex. And yes, that is broadly categorized as intersex, but no two intersex people are the same. And therefore, we have many sexes and not just two sex. Yeah. So that also constitutes my anatomical sex. Now, whatever my anatomical sex is, it has nothing to do with what my identity is. And these have to be looked at as different. Now, quick question. Suppose my anatomical sex and my identity, both I identify the same. Who am I?
Cisgender.
Yes, I'm called cisgender. I'm not called normal, I'm called cisgender. Mainstream understanding is that you need to be typically normal to have your identity and your biological sex to be the same. Some of us don't think otherwise. We are called cis if we identify as the same. If my identity, my gender identity is different from my anatomical sex, what am I called?
Trans.
Yes, I'm called trans. So if my gender identity is different from the one that has been identified for me through my anatomical sex, then I identify as trans. Yeah. Awesome. Fabulous. Great. This is going fabulous. The next is about our expression. Now, gender expression is very, very interesting. And why I say it's interesting is because due to social constructs, we have attributed certain expressions as male, certain expressions as female. There are a lot of us individuals who identify with the same gender we've been given to, but like to dress in clothes that is typically female. That's my gender expression. And just because I've worn a female attire doesn't mean I identify as male. It only means that my gender expression is female. But my identity could be male and my anatomical sex could be male as well. And therefore, identity, sex, and expression are not similar but need to be looked at differently. Yeah. Some of us like to, some of us are also called cross dressers, for lack of a better word. It's only that we dress in a way that is not typically ascribing to the clothing that is connected to our gender. It's very interesting how we see this only from the framework of a male body, because when females wear male attire, we don't get questioned, right? If a woman is wearing a pair of trousers and she's wearing a shirt, which is very typically male, nobody says that she's dressing differently or she's cross dressing. Could anybody tell me why is that so?
Patriarchal system.
Patriarchy, okay. And so what about patriarchy? I mean, so what if there's patriarchy, and why should it be looked at differently? Because if a male person wears a female clothing, there's a lot of curiosity, to say the least, and everybody would look at it very differently. It's not normalized. It's not mainstream. But women wearing men's clothing is very mainstream, very normal. Ashwin just said that he says patriarchy. So what about patriarchy makes this distinction?
Because the society expects men to dress in a typical way, like, and also to behave in a typical way. So when they put that kind of dress, I mean, it's not according to mainstream. So it invokes discomfort in people. I think that's the reason.
True, but what about women then? Then why women are allowed to cross dress? Why
Sorry,
women?
I don't know.
So it's
I
very,
think sort of stepping down
yeah,
from a male status to a female is a step down. So why would you do that? Whereas
absolutely.
aspiring above, going above is fine and
Yes.
encouraged, maybe.
Yes, absolutely, Jesse. So it's very close to what Ashwin actually shared. When he said patriarchy, patriarchy says that male is in the top order. That means able bodied white male is the supreme power, and women come somewhere very below. And therefore, for a woman to wear male clothing is looked at as aspirational, is looked at as going up. But for a man to dress up as a female is looked at as stepping down, as Jesse said, and that is not okay in under patriarchy. So what we also need to understand is, while we're talking about gender, while we're talking about queer, we need to also understand what is the real issue that's not allowing us to accept or to be comfortable being queer, is this whole concept of patriarchy. So patriarchy does not just affect women and queer people, it also affects men, because they're expected to be in a particular way, expected to express themselves in a particular way, expected to be in a particular way. Only then they are accepted as mainstream. And how entrenched is patriarchy? We'll soon find out. Yeah. And the final thing is attraction. Now, this is very, very interesting. And this is where a lot of us get very confused. And we think that our mainstream understanding of queer entities is only based on attractions. But now we see that being queer is not just about attraction, it's about identity, it's about my anatomical sex, it's about my expression. And let's come to attraction now. So, predominantly, most of us, or most individuals, or the mainstream understanding of attraction is that two different bodies need to be attracted to each other, in the sense that a male body attracted to a female body attracted to a male body. Now, sometimes, now, not now, but always, there are bodies of similar sex attracted to each other. What are these? What is this attraction called? Where we have same-sex attractions.
Homosexual.
So it's called homosexuality, or two male bodies, when attracted to each other, call themselves as gay people. Two female bodies call themselves as lesbians. What about a male attracted to female, female attracted to male? What are they called?
Heterosexuals.
Yeah, so we are called, some of us are called heterosexual. So if I'm attracted to uh, a gender that is not mine, then I am a heterosexual. Now, there are people who are attracted to the same sex as well as the different sex. And what are we called? Any idea?
Bisexual.
Yes, we are called
Bisexual.
bisexuals. Thank you so much. Some of us are attracted to uh, an individual, and their gender doesn't matter to us. So my attraction is based on my interaction with this person, or my intellectual interactions, or their behaviors, their expressions that attract to me. And gender doesn't seem to be an important aspect about that attraction. And who am I?
Pansexual.
Yeah, I'm a pansexual person. I some of us sometimes have very interesting relationships where we are attracted to different people, and we feel we typically, mostly relationships are expected to be singular. Like, I'm attracted to one person and I stay committed to that one particular relationship. So that's one kind of attraction, right? Then there's another kind of attraction where attracted to multiple people, and I'm very open about the fact that I'm attracted to multiple people, with all of them. So these are two different types of relationships. So can somebody tell me, who am I if I'm attracted to just one individual and I commit to this relationship wholly? What kind of relationship is that?
Monogamy.
Yeah, so I'm in a monogamous relationship when I'm attracted to one person and I commit to that one person. But if I'm attracted to many people and I'm very open about it with all of them, and all of them I've got their consent and understanding, and I'm in multiple relationships, and who am I? And what kind of relationship am I in?
Polyamorous.
Polygamy.
So could be polygamy is being polyamorous. Polygamy is being in different relationships, but the consent issue, consent part is not primary here. But for polyamory, consent is very, very vital. So you see that uh, relationships, identities, expressions, sex, and attractions all make who we are. And if we sit down and draw this gender-based person, draw you as a gender-based person, and put this all together, you will understand that most of us who think we are cis, we are heterosexual, we may not be so. And why is that? We are so conditioned to believe that we must be so, or we are so. Yeah. So to understand that, I want to have a small experiential exercise. And that exercise would require all of you to sit back and listen to me for 2 minutes. Before that, can somebody explain to me what is this particular poster? What does "not all women menstruate and not all menstruators are women" mean? Does it make sense? Is it true or is it not?
It's not necessary that all women will have their periods. There would be few who don't have their periods at all.
Okay.
So it does. Okay, so
Okay.
that is one. And not all menstruators are okay. Probably that you might that I as a woman might menstruate, but gender wise, I am more of a man.
So I could be a trans man and I could be menstruating.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could be a trans woman and not be menstruating. I could be intersex and not be able to menstruate, identify as female. I could be menstruating, be intersex, and I could identify as a man. So menstruation, like this, and why am I putting this post out? To tell you that your anatomical sex has nothing to do with your identity. And they're very different. And therefore, to understand that, we need to look at everything differently to understand ourselves before we start understanding somebody else, and even going out and saying, I need to be a, or I want to be a queer ally. Yeah. So now I'd like all of you to sit comfortably. I would like to read out a small passage for you. It's just an experience. And I want you to put yourself in this particular situation while I read this particular snippet. Yeah. So here it goes. Imagine a time 1,000 years in the future. Your life in a country of 10 million people. 95% people here are in a same sex relationship or are homosexuals. Most of them marry people of the same sex, and the average age of marriage is 22 to 28, and most families have one or two children. The state insurance covers use of medical technology for childbearing. Parents raise their children on storybooks of love between Cinderella and Snow White and bring them up to become normal, healthy, homosexual adults. Religious leaders promote same sex relationships and condemn any heterosexual behaviors as sinful. There are laws punishing any kind of heterosexual conduct. Medical foundations are putting in millions of dollars to promote research and aimed at finding and eliminating of a straight gene and to find cure for heterosexuality. You are a 32-year-old, whatever gender you ascribe to, who has always been attracted to people of the other sex. And despite several attempts at getting rid of these feelings, you have intense, incurable inclination towards persons of the other sex. You work in an educational institution that has a policy against hiring of such perverts. In this institution, most people are married to people of the same sex, or some have steady relationships. The institution gives insurance cover and all partner benefits to same sex relationships, married or partnerships. You have heard about reports on the internet that there are many as 5% people in the country who are straight, but you personally haven't met anyone like you. You suspect that there would be others, but they all have to be in the closet due to the fear of being found out just like you. The only place where you see heterosexuals is sometimes in movies where they are used for comical relief. So now I'm going to pose a few questions to all of us. Yeah. Would you be at a disadvantage? And if yes, in what areas of life?
There wouldn't be any happiness in the relationship.
Sorry, I didn't hear you clearly, Ashwin.
There wouldn't be any happiness in the relationship.
You wouldn't be having any happy relationships. Okay. What else? What would be your disadvantage? And in what areas? Where are the areas that you'd see a disadvantage of being somebody who's heterosexual in a homosexual environment?
The freedom.
Like
Yep.
ma'am told the example of comic relief in movies, right? Like when they go to such a movie, those kind of people would feel discomfort and being offended.
Yep. Yes. Definitely. What else? Would I feel safe being anywhere? That example. That matter.
Societal pressure will be high.
Very good. Yes. Societal pressure is very high. Societal pressure for what?
From the peers, from the
Yes.
government, and
Yes, from the
basically
government.
everyone.
Yes, from everyone, from the medical fraternity to government to what else? What are the other institutions that make you feel disadvantaged? One is the government institution. The other is the medical fraternity. What else? So Tintu says fair to face society. Aishwarya says professional and social opportunities are taken away. Absolutely. What are the other fraternities that make you feel vulnerable, make you feel disadvantaged? What does religion say about homosexuality? Does it celebrate it?
I think there are both sides given in religion. I mean,
Okay.
in some places they support it, and in some places they're against it.
So, what is the mainstream narrative? Is the mainstream narrative supportive? So,
No.
no, not at all. It's not, right? And mainstream, all religions, I'm not picking one religion over the other, most religions look at same sex relationships as being problematic, as being criminal, as being sinful, um, and also very, very stigmatizing. And the other alternate narratives that we are hearing now, with some religious leaders stepping out and saying that no, but that's not the understanding of religion, are very small in number. But the majority of people who are talking about queer relationships are talking about them in a very problematic manner, right? So on one hand, because these are all our identities, what is my religion, what's to which country I belong to, which state I belong to, which land I belong to, and the rules and the social constructs that is formed by all these big bodies are telling me constantly to be what is mainstream. So that is putting me in a very awkward position. So here I flipped the entire scenario and saying that me being heterosexual, being in a same-sex relation environment, but now that also gives me an idea to how problematic and how claustrophobic it would be for some of us who very strongly feel that we don't belong to the mainstream idea of who I need to be. Yeah. So, could anybody want to share your feelings when you were going through this exercise?
It gives us a perspective of people in the LGBTQ community in a disadvantaged world.
Okay. What else does it tell you? What else? What are the other feelings that you went through? Because you were hearing the story and you were placing in that position, right? So what were your feelings when I was reading this passage? Can anybody share with me?
I feel it gave us an understanding of how we could try empathizing and how to channel empathy towards the LGBTQ community. And I think that is the whole purpose of today's session, to be a better ally. And to be a better ally, we really need to channel empathy.
But Pavitra, what did you feel when you heard this particular passage? What we need to do is different, but what did you feel?
Ma'am, actually, I felt that, my wings, if I was a bird, my wings were being clipped. I was being suffocated and found it very hard to breathe, even. That's what I felt.
Yes, yes. And that was just about 2-3 minutes, and that itself gave us so many feelings. So Aishwarya shared that she felt helpless and victimized for being natural and normal. Yeah, the more we talk about and this conversation, have these conversations, not just in these webinars and in workshops, and not just with people who think like us, but in my dining room, in the coffee shop with my friends, in classrooms with my faculty who do not understand anything beyond the binary. So our conversations need to move beyond that. So what it takes to be an ally, not just about being empathetic, but first understanding what it is to be a queer person. What are the unique stressors that queer people go through? So the first unique stressor that they go through, just like how Tunetha said, it's mainstream is telling me I don't find myself in mainstream. I don't see myself there. And therefore, what happens to me, I can't believe this is who I am. I'm trying very hard. I'm having internal turmoils about myself. And therefore, I'm going through so much frustration, so much stress, because I don't seem to be understanding what is happening to me, why I'm thinking this particular way, why am I attracted to this particular person, what is making me what is drawing me towards wearing certain clothes, what's making me not conform to the gender identity I'm part of. And this stressor is very unique to me, because I don't see others going through the stresses that I'm going through. And therefore, the difficulty of self acceptance is one of the biggest issues that LGBTQ people go through. The second thing is about coming out. And this is a constant process. I don't need to tell anybody if I'm heterosexual. I don't need to tell anybody if I'm cis. But for me, who's trans, who's gender non-conforming, for me, who has a same-sex relationship, I have to keep explaining myself all the time, not only to my friends, not only to my family, to my doctor, to government officials, uh, wherever I go, my religious spaces, I have to keep explaining and keep coming out, keep making the decision to come out. Do I tell them I'm gay? And that's an everyday process, and that's not a stress that a heterosexual cis heterosexual person goes through. The third is invisibility. Mainstream doesn't even recognize me. I don't see myself anywhere, so I completely get overshadowed by mainstream understanding of who I should be, and I feel so invisible, and therefore my dreams, my aspirations, my wants, my likes are all getting completely invisibilized, and that disturbs me no end because I don't feel I am recognized at all. Let's The less said, the better. Discrimination, harassment is something that I'm going to face all the time. So either if I've not come out, I'm going to keep thinking who's going to find out, what's going to happen. I'm going to be on my guard. If I've come out, I'm going to be facing discrimination in all these spaces, every space that I walk in. Some of us don't even realize how we take so many of our privileges for granted. Going to the bathroom that is assigned to my sex, walking into a police station, going to school in the dress that I want to wear. These are things that come very naturally to many of us who are cis and heterosexual. But some of us who don't fall in that category, these are such hard spaces to navigate. And we keep facing discrimination, harassment all the time. I don't find healthy, happy relationships, be it friends, family. Family is upset. The first thing that happens, and most 80 to 90% of queer people have so much trouble with family relationships. I'm not even talking about romantic and sexual relations. I'm talking about bonding, family bonding. The closest thing that you know for yourself or that identifies you is your parents, your extended family. And when they don't accept you, the turmoil that I go is very, very unique to me. And because of all this, I have multiple mental health manifestations. Very easily, some people say that, oh, you have gender dysphoria. Because you're gender dysphoria, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have blah blah blah. All these pathologizations that happened to me is not because I had gender dysphoria. It's because of what social norms is putting me through. And as individuals working with people, understanding queer unique life stress is the most basic thing to allyship. So once I understand these, I also need to hear what my friends who are queer say when they go through these stresses. Yeah, the various stressors that queer people go through, it's so unique to them, and therefore understanding that is important. But also, what do we do after understanding? Once we understand, what is our next step? Next step is about how one wants to be an ally. And the first basic thing is about listening. We always think we know it all because we have the knowledge. Some of us are mental health professionals, some of us are medical doctors, some of us are working in the spatial social sciences. So we think we know it all because we feel this understanding is commonsensical. It's not. As rightly as one of them pointed out, it's very unique to each and every person. So each and every person's lived reality is very different. So the first thing about allyship is about listening. When someone comes out to you, thank them and celebrate respecting confidentiality. So what does that mean? First of all, when somebody comes out to you and says, yes, I'm queer, that means they found you trustworthy enough. They found you safe enough to share that. They've come out to you. And thanking them is very important because that's like a feather on your cap. And celebrating their confidentiality means I'm not going to tell somebody else about it, because coming out is a journey for that person, not mine. I have been told, and that's for me to keep, for me to respect, and for me to understand this person, not for me to go around telling other people what I know about them. That's for them to do. Educate yourself. The whole understanding about being queer, the understanding of gender, bodies is evolving as we speak. Medical sciences has been working around the body, making the male body, the male ableist body, as the reference body. And therefore, that's why we have somebody who's trained to be a gynecologist, because gynecology is about looking at the female parts of a body, because it's not typically male. That's why we don't have a male gynecologist, because everybody studies about the male body, not the female body. And medical science is evolving. Very interesting snippet to tell you is that even today, there is so much that comes out about a female body. The clitoris being an example. Only in 2004 or 5 that we truly understood the real shape of a clitoris, what its functions are. 2005. And for centuries, we've been kept away from this reality. Checking your privileges. Many of us feel, if I had so many stressors, this person can also have, can come out of those stressors because I came out of it. But I need to understand which family I belong to, what is my location, what is the education that I've got, and because of all these things, what have I have access to, what are some of the things that I've never had to experience, be it even basic food, clothing, and shelter, my love from families, acceptance in society. So many privileges that I have that some of my queer friends don't have, some of my queer allies don't have. So checking privilege all the time, seeing what is it that I have that is giving me advantage is very, very important when I'm an ally. Show support, speak up, be visible. In some of our working spaces, putting up a pride flag, keeping books that is queer specific, that is talking about gender, that's talking about patriarchy, that's talking about different kinds of body. Having these conversations, like I said, in dinner tables, coffee tables, parties, weddings, social spaces, coming out when there's a celebration, being part of the celebration. Pride Month, not just Pride Month. Being proud of being part of the tribe of the pride every time. Understanding simple things, that what is this Pride Month all about? Where did it start? What is the Stonewall protest? Why are we celebrating June as Pride Month? These are simple things, simple information that we need to understand and constantly keep updating ourselves. Ask, don't assume, have conversations. Many times in my signature, I usually put my pronouns, saying Ashika Shetty, she, her, telling people that I understand that others don't look at it that way, telling my queer friends that I'm here, I know, I'm waiting for you to tell me what your gender identity is. I will not assume. Whenever I meet people, I will say, hi, my name is Ashika, I identify as she and her. What about you? Open conversations about it, talking about relationships, love, celebration. That is not just heterosexual, that is also inclusive of all queer identities. So that also means we need to put in that effort. And that effort is constant. And that effort will only come if you and I make an effort every day to understand who we are. And tomorrow, if we have a society that is looking at being inclusive, our bathroom board should look like this, not man and woman. Thank you.